We're back. It's been a lovely little break, but we missed our conversations. I missed our conversations. So today is especially sweet to reconvene with everybody. And for those of you who are new to the show, MS Confidential hosts monthly, bi-monthly gatherings and candid conversations about life with multiple sclerosis and other chronic illnesses. Our topic today is aging, one that we can all relate to, perhaps. We all do it, whether we like it or not. But for those with chronic illness, the experience can be much more complex. In many ways, chronic illness actually prepares us for aging, living with a slower pace, going to bed early, limiting certain activities, a constant awareness of being tethered to our flesh and bone. I have friends personally who have joked about my granny lifestyle, but I proudly embrace my nursing home hours. It's not all laughs, however. Aging with chronic illness can be really challenging and even scary as our symptoms shift, progress, and throw wild cards into the mix. As our lovely director Elizabeth has shared, progressive MS has prepared me for the progressive nature of aging. And she goes on to say, as I get older, I wonder how long I can rely on my own strength. Will I be more to care for as I age? And will it limit where I can go and live? Unexpected episodes of aphasia, migraines, spasms, and pain make me wonder about future unknowns. So today we're going to discuss this colorful, messy relationship between aging and chronic illness and glean a little insight from our wonderful panelists. Please chime in with questions and comments during our discussion. I will keep an eye on those. Today, of course, we have Elizabeth Jamieson with us, the director of MS Confidential, artist, writer, and patient advocate. We also have Kyle Cronick, who is currently finishing up his degree in accounting and finance, and the lovely Annie Brewster, assistant professor at Harvard, practicing physician and founder of Health Story Collaborative. My name is Kimberly Warner, founder of Unfixed Media. I am here to just keep the conversations flowing and chime in with my own chronic illness experience. But let's check in today. It's been a while, and we've all aged since I've last seen you. And I'm curious how aging is living in you in this moment or this day or this week, perhaps. Anyone want to jump in and begin?
I just had a birthday. So
Happy birthday.
yeah, thank you. I don't feel like my age. I still feel way younger, but at the same time, I feel way, way, way older because of all these fun chronic illness issues. But yeah, I'm 34 and still going.
Why do you feel older, Kyle?
I used to be super, super active and able to do absolutely anything and everything, and now I use a wheelchair and drag my feet and can barely move my body most days.
So aging, it's like a mobility thing for you that you're mostly
absolutely. Yeah, and just looking around at the world, and I'm the only one that I see every day that's dealing with this shit.
Yeah, you're young, Kyle. Can I ask what was
34.
Can I talk today? 34?
And it's been yeah, and it's been 13 years of this. Yeah, I still feel young, which is good.
That reminds me of maybe Elizabeth, you remember Brian Nice said this. He's older, but he had a brain bleed and developed, had a stroke and became very disabled through that experience. And he said he feels like he's completely normal inside. And it's only when he sees himself on video that he's shocked, to go, oh my gosh, this person is completely, in Brian terms, fucked up, is what he would say.
Right.
Elizabeth, you're nodding your head.
I wrote an article saying shocked by my own reflection because I never felt disabled. Never. If anyone said, anyone in the room who has disability, raise up your hand, I would not raise up my hand. One, because I can't do it, but even if I could raise up my hand, I don't feel disabled. Because it's only when I see a picture of myself and I feel like, oh, I'm so fucked up. That's, I, I'm very disabled, but I don't feel that way.
How
I
about
feel,
aging? What, do you feel old too or older, or
no,
does,
I don't
so
feel, I feel maybe I'm 40.
that's,
My
wow.
internal self says I still have ambition and drive, and I love my friends. I have friends of all age, and I don't I don't look at myself as old.
Mm.
I feel like I have gained wisdom by my disease, and the fact that when I see someone who looks disabled, I I gravitate to them because I think they're the most interesting people. Interested tend to be the most interesting people in the room.
Mhm.
It's funny, and I have all sorts of fun people who are elderly, truly elderly, because I feel like I can empathize with them because I am 70.
Mm.
It's funny.
Wow, but you feel almost half of that.
I do.
That's amazing. Annie, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm 56. I feel really a lot younger than that. I feel like it's hard to believe where all the time went. Like I feel like I should still be 34, Kyle, but I'm
You
not.
look like it.
Oh, thanks. But you know what? I'm okay with it. I mean, I think I want to age gracefully, and I think that's about
Yeah.
acceptance. And I do think what you said at the beginning, Kimberly, about chronic illness sort of helping to prepare us. I think it's true of like learning that we like to let go a little, that we can't control the way things unfold. Certainly we can't control time. Um, and I, yeah, I think there's been a shift. Like I'm still like have this delusional state of thinking I can do all these things that I can no longer, like, I'm like, sure, Hannah, my, 17-year-old daughter who's like really in great shape. Like, I can wrestle you and I think I can like beat her. I sort of, we were goofing around the other day and I had this like rib injury that lasted a month. So I'm learning, okay, you have to stop thinking you're invincible because you're not. But I've had a few times where I've caught myself like, I'm not going to do that because I could get hurt. And that's really new for me. Usually I'm like, I can do anything. So I think that's maybe a sign of maturity that's overdue of like, okay, that would be not smart and not worth it if I were to like fall doing that. So I'm not going to do it. But that feels like a healthy acceptance to me, a healthy change. So I guess I have lots of mixed feelings about age. I feel a lot younger. I'm still like deluded about not being older. I don't think I'm old yet. I won't say old. Um, but I also want to do it gracefully. And if someone said, do you want to go back to your 20s? I'd probably say no. I mean, maybe I'd say yes because I want more time, but I like where my mindset is more now than it was then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering about, the role of fear, because I think that comes into play with everybody aging, obviously, but also specifically chronic illness, because there is, like you mentioned, Elizabeth, this the unknown of how much more is this going to progress, and what does that look like. So what is the role of fear for you guys in aging?
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, first of all, I'll just start with like I'm terrified of death. Like like some people have a lot of acceptance about that. I'm just terrified. I hate thinking about it. Um, I'm also terrified of like living in pain. I don't want to be in pain. I feel lucky I don't have pain right now. I think pain is really hard.
Mm.
I realize I never felt pain really until the past year with my migraines. They were so horrible. And before that, I don't think I had pain. My
Mm.
husband disagrees, but I really feel pain is exhausting.
So,
It
Mhm.
saps your energy.
yeah.
It saps your ambition, saps everything. I know,
Yeah.
Kyle, you live with a lot of pain.
Yeah, it's different every day. Uh, and speaking to fear, my diagnosing neurologist kind of started me off with a fearful prognosis, saying that I was going to be wheelchair bound and blind by 30. Just looking at my MRI, she was like, "Oh, there is extensive nerve damage. Yeah, you'll be blind and in a wheelchair by 30."
Ridiculous.
Well, they were
But
wrong.
that,
Yeah.
I appreciate that actually, because it certainly lit a fire under my ass. I was like, "To hell I will be.
Mhm. Have
That
you
is
been
not my
back to
life."
that neurologist? Have you marched into
Oh
his?
hell, I have not. I would like to see old Dr. Gupti. She was mm. Even though I do use a wheelchair, I'm not wheelchair bound. She made it seem like life would be over by 30.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
just
is
such a negative framing, regardless.
that's
Uh,
fucked up to tell somebody when
yeah.
they're just about to turn 21. And yeah, but like I was saying, I'm kind of glad she did that,
Hmm.
because it gave me that fight.
Yeah.
So I will prove you wrong.
Uh-huh. It motivated you. Do you guys have that, Annie and Elizabeth? Do you have a little bit of that, like, I want to prove people wrong, that this MS is, gonna ruin my life, or whatever people think?
Yeah, for sure. That little competitive drive, it can be good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to relax
Oh, good for you.
towards my disease and welcome it. I give all sorts of positive information. Welcome your MS.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's a really interesting point, because for me, I was just thinking like about there's a tension between sort of fighting against something and acceptance. And I think acceptance is really important, but also like, what's the difference between acceptance and giving up? There is a
Right.
huge difference. There is a huge difference.
Exactly.
But
There is.
can anyone articulate that?
No.
I'm thinking
Between acceptance and I've grappled with this one myself a lot, and I feel like, for me personally, acceptance has there's I use the word allowing, and the reason why is because allowing is more of an active,
Mhm.
participatory word. Acceptance does maybe potentially imply just sitting back and letting it occur, but allowing feels like I'm saying yes to this.
Yeah,
And so
that's
versus
wonderful.
resignation, which is just like throwing up your hands and going, this is it. So I don't know if
Yeah,
you guys can relate to that word too, but for me, allowing is always a little bit more of
I like that.
engaged.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, kind of along the same lines, just letting go and letting go of expectations.
Mhm.
That has been such a big help for me the past couple of years because I've held on to so many expectations of me progressing in a positive manner. Um, and when I don't, it's easy to get discouraged. Um, but I've been letting go of that expectation. It's all over the place, as we know. Some
Mhm.
days are good, some days are bad. And I'm not going to beat myself up on the bad days.
Yeah. It seems to me too that like I picture a dinner table and acceptance lets all the people characters within you come to the dinner. You know,
Mm.
the pain, the grief, the joy, all of them get to be part of the dinner. Whereas resignation is like, you know, throwing up your hands and going, I'm going upstairs. I don't want to be part of
Yeah,
this dinner.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's really good.
We have, so somebody just wrote in that Jason actually wrote in and said he goes back and forth with fear. It's a little bit like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Does anyone relate to that where it kind of comes and goes?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me that would be like I'm pretty good at denial. I can like put fear in a little box and put it away. But
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
it sometimes
You and me
forces
both.
its way out. That's my roller coaster, I guess. Yeah.
What about you, Elizabeth? Do you feel like this place where you are right now in your life, are you wanting to just accept and um, be at peace? Does fear play into that?
Yes, I want to be at peace, but
Mhm.
it's on a good day. There are days when I feel peace, and other days there's no way. It depends on all sorts of things, but yeah,
Mhm.
I'm I'm human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jason, I I understand the ups and downs, and I'm working on working on more ups than downs, but it's all a work in progress.
Mhm. One of the things, Elizabeth, you've talked about is that you're developing a kinder language of understanding that will help you navigate these changes in aging with MS. What do you mean by that? What does that look like for you, developing a kinder language of understanding?
Well, I think my body's been through hell and back again in terms of damage from brain damage from my disease. And I figure I want to nurture it. I want to really face it one on one and just, I tell my body, you poor thing, I'm here with you. We'll deal with it. You've been through uh, terrible things. And I want to acknowledge what a what a hard journey you've had. And so I keep trying to do that. And most of the time, I'm not at war with my body. Um,
Does that even look like, do you talk to yourself? What does that look like?
I do daily meditations and
Mm,
my body scan meditation. And
mhm,
so every day I think that part of my body that's giving me problems and try to give it some attention, but makes me sound like a, a goody goody, whatever. But I just, I had terrible muscle spasms
Mm.
the couple days, and I just talk to my legs and say, "Oh, would you please not spasm? But if you have to keep spasming, that's okay. But
Mhm.
I'll be grumpy or whatever." So I try to tell myself stories about
Yeah.
what I'm going through, but day to day depends on my energy.
Mhm.
But it's all a process.
I
And
love what you say there, Elizabeth, about doing the body scans and it's not a goody two shoes thing. I think it really is just a gentle way we can be with ourselves. We're not really
right,
taught to be gentle with ourselves. I want to read a comment that Sylvia just wrote in. She says, my name is Sylvia, and I have had relapsing remitting MS for at least 35 years. When I see my face in a mirror, I scare myself. As for death, I had to deal with the last year because my husband of 45 years died in last February. He had a lot of the MS symptoms and was in a wheelchair for the last 15 years. I had to accept a lot with my MS and learning to live alone and still deal with MS. Wow. So that's a lot. Sylvia, thank you for sharing that. Um, there is something about seeing ourselves, as we talked about at the very beginning, when we look in the mirror and going, who is this? Especially when you've just been through trauma and death and grief and also dealing with chronic illness. Can you guys relate to that at periods in your life where it's almost like you don't even recognize yourself?
Sometimes I don't recognize myself. Uh, it, time is just, I don't know, aging is, I'm grateful to be aging. It is a privilege. I have gotten to that pretty recently. Not everybody gets to get older and age.
Mm.
I've had some people that in my life died very young, um, and so I'm grateful for what I still got, and I'm still going.
Kyle, do you
Yeah.
like to surround yourself with people your age, friends your age, or do you like to kind of diversify that? And just because you spoke in the beginning about, you look around and everyone's, jumping off cliffs and riding bikes, and do you
Yeah.
do you diversify
Um,
your friendship circles?
I don't feel like I've got many friends that are my age. Typically, I've always been attracted to relationships with older people, even when I was younger, even as a kid. I kind of wanted to be with the adults and hanging out with them. And but yeah, most of my friends are a good few years older than me. My partner is 11 years older than me.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm just still like in thought about Sylvia's comment, which I don't have anything smart to say except just thank you, Sylvia, for sharing it, because I just think somehow it's like it feels like it allows me to breathe more deeply. I don't know what, like it opens up all of our ability, I think, to think about what's hard and be honest about it.
Mhm.
So anyway, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a good point, Annie, because we don't like to talk about what's hard in
Yeah.
this culture. I mean, there are pockets for it. Your Health Story Collaborative is a wonderful place where people can talk about what's hard, and you've done all the research to see that it actually is beneficial, but largely our culture still does not like to talk about the hard stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's true. And that sort of relates to aging in a way, because we don't like to think about aging in our culture, and we'll do about everything to reverse it, with all the
True.
products, the way we doctor people up on, I don't know, Photoshop or whatever. I mean, it's just, nobody, we don't see that as beautiful, in our culture, culturally,
yeah.
aging.
That's what I think is great about having MS, in that it's increased my capacity for empathy,
Mhm.
because we've been through a lot, those of us with the disease, and we know what it's like to have a lack of control, and we know pain to some extent, and we've had had to develop empathy for ourselves, and we can. I, I, I think there's some wisdom that comes from chronic illness,
Yeah.
and I think that makes it easier thing for us to embrace aging, because we've already had the humiliation of illness, and we've already had the dignities of frailty. So I
Mhm.
think,
Yeah.
you know, everything that people fear about aging, I think a lot of us have already experienced. And we say, well, we're alive.
Mhm.
I want to blow out my birthday candles and eat cake and ice cream. And
Yep.
I think that's the benefit of chronic illnesses. You know, I'm not scared of aging. I but I'm not. I just think we're used to looking at uh, difficult things in the eye and not avoid
Yeah.
it.
Not having a choice to avoid it,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It forces us into it, but then there is like a freedom on the other side, or a freeing, or
Yeah.
permissions, or something there is some positive permissions, I think, that come.
Yeah, I like that word. Let's talk about that, Annie. But the permissions, what does chronic illness permit you to do? And by default, aging as well.
And I think aging too. I think, it's like you just, I'll speak for myself. I feel like I've freed up because I don't care as much, in a good way, about like
I'm getting there.
what,
I've been trying to get there.
yeah, about
Just not.
what other people will think, or like, I'm gonna say what I want to say. I'm gonna hang out with the people that I want to hang out with, and not with the people that I really don't want to hang out with. I think some of that just comes with age, but I think chronic illness accelerates that. It sort of brings everything more into focus about what your priorities are, what really
Yeah.
matters and what doesn't, and it's easier to cut through the bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Permission to say no.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Permission to back out when something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
Permission to go to bed early.
Yeah, yeah.
Sylvia, actually, I just saw this come back in. Sylvia just came back. I don't know if you guys can see these. That's why I'm reading them out loud for everybody, but
See them pop up. I could.
No, I
What
like
about-
it when you read them.
Okay. So Sylvia says, I appreciate the comments. I don't recognize myself because I'm physically 71, but inside don't feel that way. At least I think I'm a little more prepared for aging than most. And I agree
yeah.
with your comment about BS. Yeah. So all of us have that. It's interesting. I mean, you would think in a cliche sort of way that anybody living with chronic illness would feel their age, oh, and there have been times where we even feel more than our age. But overall, I'm hearing the sense that we all feel quite young inside and enthusiastic about life. That's a cool thing to know. That I think most people with chronic illness would be nodding their heads at, but I think the rest of the world doesn't understand. I think they're like, oh God, no, chronic illness is just the worst thing in the world, and it's going to make me feel dead inside all the time. And it does.
Well, that's part of the roller coaster, because
Yeah.
there are moments, sure.
But I think that for me comes back to this question of acceptance. Like, I think, okay, I lost my train now. Hold on. It'll come back to me. Okay, carry on.
Well, okay, yeah, maybe I'll talk while you're thinking, Annie, because little side story here. I fell in love with my husband 20 years ago. And when I met him, he was raising an intellectually disabled daughter on his own. She was 11 at the time. And I remember I just come out of a relationship, and, the guy that I had been with was just like charging through the forest with his sword. He was just like a conqueror, and I have goals, and these are the things I'm going to get in life. And I met Dave, and Dave was very, very much like the battered soldier in the woods with his sword down and dents all over his armor, and just like resigned in a way, but looking at the trees. I mean, he was just like, this is my life, and I can't fight this anymore. And there's a youthfulness that I experienced within that was so refreshing. Not youthful in the like immature, bold, I can have everything I want, but this sort of innocence maybe is the right word, where life beat him down, and he was just like, well, oh well, I'm gonna, you guys all run ahead. I'm gonna just look at the trees.
Willing to
Yeah.
accept.
Accept.
Mhm.
All right, so that relates back to my train of thought. So
Good.
thank you. Which was exactly that. I think that you'd said something like a lot of people with chronic illness probably feel what we're saying, that we feel younger. I think it has a lot to do with our relationship to our illness, right? So if we are fighting against it or feeling bitter towards it, or it is like, or feel victimized by it, I don't think that that necessarily holds. I think that if we're able to accept it, like you just described with Dave, who just sort of let go and accepted, and a youthfulness came with it, or like a lifting of a weight or something. I mean, I'll say just like anecdotally, just as a doctor, like I'm always shocked by the variations in age. Like you could see someone who's 40 who comes in who looks 25, and you could see someone who's 40 who comes in and looks 75.
Wow.
And like the differences of like how people look at certain ages is really striking. Now that's some of that genetics, but some of it I think is our attitude towards ourselves and the world. I think there's a lot in that. And if we're fighting or bitter or rejecting part of ourselves, or feel like we are a victim and everything's just happening to us, I don't think that's good for graceful aging.
I love that. Are you able to identify that pretty quickly in your patients, Annie? I'm just curious, like when they start speaking, you like, oh, I understand why this person looks 30 years older than they are, or.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily think of it like that clearly, that I would say I don't often say like link their age to their attitude in my assessment, but I think it's pretty easy to pick up what someone's attitude is pretty quickly, or their stance towards the world, their stance towards what they have encountered in their lives. Whether they are feeling like a victim, or whether they're feeling like they have agency, or whether they're, it always shocks me because there are some people that have had just horrible things happen to them who are so full of gratitude, right? And then there's the opposite. So, and not to say that it's easy to have gratitude, but it just always really surprises me when people are
It's a
able.
choice.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. It
Choice.
doesn't come just naturally. Like you have to want that for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true,
Yeah.
Kyle.
I've been exploring the crow's feet this last month. I wrote something about
Oh,
crow's
you wrote
feet.
something about that. I loved it.
Oh, you did? Oh,
I did. Yeah.
But so I found some really fascinating research. I'm defending crow's feet in this essay that I wrote. And some of the research is out there that's really showing this powerful chemical reaction in the brain that it makes you actually happier and more relaxed when you smile, releasing endorphins and serotonin and all of that. And that there is our brains, we really do, like going back to that word choice, we really do have the ability to flood ourselves occasionally or all the time with that youthful positive energy. And it's just right here. And they even said it doesn't even have to necessarily, you can fake it. You can fake your smile and you still will get some of those good hormones flooding to your brain. So,
Yeah.
and then conversely, if you Botox these muscles, they're finding out that people are more depressed after a period of
Oh, shit.
time. Yeah. But if they got their frown muscles Botoxed, their
Happier.
depression lifted. But if they get their crow's feet Botox, then they get more depressed.
You gotta
Excellent.
moisturize, people.
Oh, you're 34. Come on.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
I don't know. Some people that I went to high school with, I just came across this dude the other day. He doesn't have any chronic illness. Something I was like, I know this guy's name, but this person looks like he's like 55.
Yes, it's really
And I was like,
interesting.
oh, nope. He was in my graduating class in high school. Whew, life has not been, he needs to moisturize and stop drinking and jeez, calm down.
Hard living. Yeah. Yeah.
But I see the three of you as people that smile a lot. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that has something to do with the youthful energy that you also feel inside.
Probably.
Smiling is so important.
Yeah, yeah. Elizabeth, one of the other things you talked about in this beautiful talk that you gave, you talked about not being defined by your disease, but by the work that you do. I want to talk a little bit more about what that, how we can define ourselves by aging or by our diseases, but alternatively, what do you like to define yourself by?
As a mother, I love my kids and my grandkids, and I define myself as a parent, as a mother, as a wife, and the things that I do. I want to do positive work, things that could maybe change the world. I've always wanted to be
You have.
change the world,
Yeah.
and
Are.
if I'm not active doing and giving, I get depressed. So I really, every day I think, how can I do something that push myself to wake up and do something?
I love that. I love that. I think it can also be like micro things, right? It could be smiling at someone in the store and
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
You know, I have a little obsession recently, and it's the Bill Walton. I don't know if anyone knows who he was. He was a basketball player. He just died, and he was like a huge Grateful Dead fan. That's kind of how I know him, but he also played for the Boston Celtics. Anyway, he died of cancer. He was 71. But I've been, for some reason, like it really touched me, just like hearing all the tributes to him. And what it was is like, here was this guy who'd had like an NBA career in basketball and all this stuff. And like hardly anyone talked about the basketball. Everything they talked about
Wow.
was how this man made everyone he was around feel better and happier. And he, like, if he made someone else feel happy, he was happy. And he was curious about everybody. And he was just like a gem of a person. And just over and over again, like hearing those tributes, that's what I want to try to bring to the world. I read that and I thought that is like just so, it was, I don't know, it's just really moving to me. He was just a really good guy who just made people feel good, but in small ways sometimes, but just that
Yeah.
was orientation.
And
So,
making people feel good is ageless.
yes,
It's
yes,
ageless.
yeah.
You can do that till the day you die.
And it can be just smiling, or it can be asking one question, or it can be having a curious mindset about somebody else.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree totally.
yeah. I think that's a good, if we're talking about life hacks or aging hacks, I think that's a really good aging hack, is to find little ways to define yourself and define your relationships outside of just, I'm sick and I'm old, or whatever those, glass half empty, as Sylvia says. She just jumped in. Isn't part of that some people are glass half empty versus glass half full? Bill Walton was glass half full type for sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
Everyone, I watched the game last night and they all had those wonderful Walton t-shirts with the
Yes.
tie-dye.
Yeah, yeah.
So did you watch it too?
I did.
Yeah.
He would say like, I'm just the luckiest guy in the world. Like, I think he really felt that. So that's gratitude.
I
Yeah.
know someone else who says that. Elizabeth, I've heard you say those very words. You say, I feel like the luckiest woman on the planet. I
Mhm.
love my life. I mean, it is truly wonderful to hear you say that, because it feels so true. When you say it, you beam, you fill up the
Yeah.
room.
Mm.
I do love my life. I'm so blessed.
Mm.
And I have so much gratitude for everyone who's helped me day by day by day. I'm so blessed.
Mm.
And I feel blessed by meeting you guys. I just
Yeah.
love you guys so much.
Aw, we love you.
Have you always been this way, Elizabeth?
What way? Oh dear.
I still so glass half full. I mean, when you were an attorney and you were working with some pretty difficult cases, did you always have a glass half full attitude, or did you have to cultivate it?
I I've always loved my jobs. I guess I choose because I've chosen well, have the ability to choose well. I chose careers that I loved and to work with wonderful people.
Mhm.
I guess my privilege in life is that I'm able to choose what I want to do. And I've never been drawn to money. Not, I don't mind money, but I don't gravitate to jobs with money.
Yeah.
My God, I laugh when I think of my life choices that have never been about money. I'm blessed because I married to a wonderful husband that helps me accomplish what I want. I'm, I just been so lucky.
Mm.
And I want to add to that, because I think there's also a place, and I don't remember which episode it was, but we talked about it's okay to have a glass half empty perspective too at points in our life. I mean, and I think it's healthy. We're not spouting toxic positivity here. We're just, and Elizabeth, I love that you can in the same breath go, this sucks, you know?
Totally.
So I think it's
Yeah.
really important to honor the fact that sometimes we just got to go, this is horrible and
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah,
could be
this
part of
sucks,
aging
but
too.
oh yeah. And this sucks. My glass isn't half full or half empty. Because I am so grateful. I feel like my glass is overflowing with abundance, even though this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting to have both of that going on.
Well, it's like another choice. It's like, yeah, this sucks,
It is.
and to be honest
Yeah.
about it. And okay, and now what? Because it does suck. So
Yeah.
what am I gonna do with this?
Keep on
Suck?
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, chronic illness gets us out of a binary thinking and going, well, it has to either suck or it has to be great. But
Right.
chronic illness
Right.
is like, well, they both can
Exist. Yeah.
exist
Exactly.
together. It's
Yeah.
fine.
It's hard for
Aging's
people that don't have chronic illnesses to experience or to understand that.
Yeah.
That's why we're great at aging. Hopefully,
Mhm.
at days, good days, we're basically okay with aging because we've known all sorts of things, various emotions about our bodies and about our lives. So I figure we've seen it all kind of, and we're here and we can say I love my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about like the body slowing down just for like, I'm thinking of my husband who he's older than I am by 14 years, but he was a big athlete and he hasn't had a chronic illness or hasn't had any sort of major challenges. But I've seen him struggle with aging in that way, like struggle that he goes out there and plays hockey and he's no longer able to do what he used to be able to do. And it's really like harder for him in a way. Like I feel like I have a much easier time being like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Like things change. We're not going to be able to do what we used to be able to do, even though I started this conversation by saying I was delusional and wrestled my daughter. But I mean, I still mean in terms of doing a physical activity. Like I think those of us who've had struggles have an easier time being like, yeah, that's like normal. I don't expect to be awesome anymore. I'm like on the downslope and that's okay. I mean, the
Yeah.
downslope in terms of skill level of something. Like, yeah, of course the 25-year-old is going to kick your ass out there. Of course. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some people struggle with that. And I think that makes aging really hard for them. I think my husband's having a hard time with it. Yeah.
Yes, that goes back to what you said earlier, Annie, about this the tension that happens when we're beating ourselves up for the experience that we're having. I mean, there is just something about being able to let go of expectations and then not fight against it, not feel victimized by it. And conversely, then you get to feel sort of uplifted. It's very ironic. It's sort of the yin and the yang thing, where if one experience is aging and you get to fully embrace it and allow it, then the opposite starts to birth within it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write that down. Whatever you just said.
I don't know what it is. So we are coming to a close here. We've got 10 minutes left. I want to invite Lisa in. I'm going to read this while Lisa comes in because she always has a fabulous question to close us with. But Kelly just wrote in, she said, I feel mentally in my fabulous 40s. I'm so focused on how my MS affects my life and abilities, disabilities, that I forget I'm also aging. So I appreciate this discussion. I don't think of myself as old, 60s, or that I'm not myself in my personality or the me I've always been. I'm reminded of my MS when my legs don't do what I need, or I'm too fatigued to activate, or brain fog, or any number of MS difficulties. I long have long had depression, pre-MS. My nature is half empty, but I have gratitude for what I do have. I spend a lot of time on the sofa. When I'm sitting watching TV or reading my iPad, I can't feel my disability. I just feel like me. I'm just a person on the sofa. It's avoidance. I have become very isolated since losing my physical abilities to do my beloved activities, hiking, biking, kayaking, where my social connections were. I don't make social connections easily, and I don't easily fit in. It feels harder to make good friends as I've gotten older. I'm long single, no kids, unlike most my age. Yeah. Kyle, you're nodding your head. I think you can relate to that one, especially.
Yeah, I feel very much like that. Yeah, long time, even pre-MS, depression and all that shit, and just struggling to deal with not being able to do the fun outdoor stuff that I used to do. I used to be a avid mountain biker, hiker, basketball player, surfer. I'm none of those things now.
Mhm.
But I've gotten to be okay with that. Maybe just because it's been so long since I've been able to do that, I've kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
uh,
I think, Kelly, you bring up a really interesting point about the friendships, because it does make me think like these are our circles that we're used to
yeah,
engaging in. And then what do you do when suddenly you can't engage in those circles anymore? It's almost like you're forced to redefine yourself, even though you're not redefined. Like you said, you still feel like the same person. So that I can empathize with that, where it's just this like, oh, how do I connect with people that are like me?
I
I've
know.
found
I remember
other
Elizabeth.
things to
Oh,
do.
go ahead.
I've found other things to do with my circle, like go to concerts and stuff. I can still go to concerts and enjoy that and be with my friends and um, yeah, it's certainly limited
Yeah.
compared to what everybody else can do. Um, but I've been able to find ways to still engage with my friends, with my people, and yeah, but it's tough because I see those people doing all that stuff, going hiking and mountain biking and kayaking, and I want so bad to be right there with them.
Yeah.
Uh, but we'll just have to get together, go get some food somewhere, or go to a concert, or
Yeah. I was just gonna say like that I just remember Elizabeth saying at one point, maybe you wrote about it or maybe you just talked about it, about like your friends that were like jet setting here and jet setting there on vacation, and that part of you was kind of like, fuck you. But you not really. Maybe I just heard that. But you're like supportive, but it's kind of hard and you're like, and they don't really get it. So that was one thought I'd love you to respond to. I also just wanted to say to Kelly's comment, like, I get the avoidance thing, the sofa. Avoidance is sometimes okay, and okay, we should
yeah,
embrace it. But also
yeah.
we have to sometimes push ourselves to get out there and find new ways, like Kyle's saying, to find new ways to be with people, but it's hard. It's really hard.
It's so hard.
So hard.
Yeah. It's hard in general as an adult to make new friends. People are pretty much like, these are my friends and this is how it is.
Right.
And, you know,
Right.
and so it just, chronic illness aside, it's hard. And then you add the limitations that come with chronic illness. And it's like, no wonder isolation is a big part of chronic
Right.
illness. Yeah.
I hope Ruth keeps dancing in her chair. I like that.
Yes, Ruth. She says, I'm 73 years old and feel that if I weren't confined to my wheelchair, I'd be out mountain biking. Mostly I just turn on music and dance in my chair.
There
Wow.
you go. I'm right there with you
Yeah. You dance in your chair too, Kyle?
every day.
Awesome.
You need to. If you don't dance in your chair, you're sunk. I
Yeah.
I love dancing in my chair.
Dance and smile your crow's feet.
Dancing and laughing. I think it's the same endorphin thing. It's really
Mm.
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kelly said that the MS Achievement Center has been very helpful to her. A once a
Good.
week, spend some time with others with
Good.
MS.
That's
And that
awesome.
is a huge part, I think, of finding our people, finding people that understand. And like you said at the beginning of the conversation, Elizabeth, you're attracted to the disabled people in the room. Often they're the most interesting. And I think that is, about finding those conversations that we can have.
Really true.
Mhm. Hey, Lisa, you want to jump in? Hi. I see her, but
Hello.
oh, there you are.
As I join you from my bed, I don't know if you can see the pillow behind me.
Oh, nice.
So, I have a few things to say. Number one, those who know Elizabeth know that the energy she gives off is ageless. Like she has friends who are in their early 20s, like teens want to know her, and then people who are older, like she has friends all in between. And I can't imagine, I mean, once you know her, like you don't even think of her as an age. I don't think of myself as an age. But
Yeah.
I also want to say a huge shout out since it was mentioned here that the Sacramento MS Achievement Center where Elizabeth gave her talk. I want to thank them for making people aware of MS Confidential. I know we have some people from the MS Achievement Center on here today, but I don't know if you saw my comment, Kimberly. I was having a, typical Lisa snarky comment that I don't see the glass as half full or half empty. I just see the glass as doing its job. And I'm not really worried about the volume of the liquid.
Mhm.
And I've especially thought about that since I broke my leg last week.
Mm.
That I am like, why the hell did this happen? Like, why? And I think about my younger days when I would kind of crash through the world. A good friend of me said that, like, kind of like you were talking about your former partner, Kimberly, just like, rah, I'm gonna go get him. And you crash the world and you don't necessarily notice the things around you. And
Mhm.
I think part of what I can learn if I choose to is to move with intention and
Mhm.
slow down and move with more intention and not just in my physical
Be
body,
deliberate.
Yeah.
but with everything that I do with more
Yeah.
intention. And um, the joy that Annie was talking about earlier, I was in the ER and there's something about reciprocity and people who are willing to give me reciprocity, great. If not, screw you. You're out. Like I'm being much more simple. But as people do in service industries, how are you today? And I said, you know what? All things considered, not that bad. And then I said, how are you? And and I meant it. And the look of like, somebody's actually asking how I'm doing uh, was a really lovely experience. And she responded the same way. She's like, all things considered, not too bad. So I'm
Yes.
just curious of like my lesson in this break that I have, and I have to be very careful and intentional because if I make one false move, we're going to go to surgery, and I don't want that.
Mm.
And so I feel like my lesson is being very intentional. Do you have to do that? Do you not have to do that? And what can you do in this downtime? So I'm just curious if the four of you, and even Kimberly, if chronic illness and getting older, you know, um, has caused you to come up with a word that you have to constantly think about or anything like that.
I want to answer this, but I forgot to mention, you guys, I have a really hard stop at 1. So I'm going to bow out right now and let you guys take over. I'm so sorry. But I just know, I hear my husband walking around out there and he's
I have a hard stop too, but I'll throw out
okay.
me slowing down.
Bye, Kimberly.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.
I agree with trying to be more intentional about slowing down, which is very hard for me. I am
Yeah.
a action, action, action. It's much harder for me to sit still.
Yeah.
But I think aging is good for that. Chronic illness is good for that. It teaches us how to do those things because our bodies talk to us and say, stop. So
Yeah.
All right, I gotta get off too. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
Great to see everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
Annie.
Bye.
Good seeing y'all.
Great seeing you.
I'll just say to everybody who's still on, this will be uploaded to YouTube if you guys want to watch it. There are some questions in the chat, and probably on our next MS Confidential, we'll answer them. So, and that will
Cool.
happen sometime in July. So thanks,
That
Kyle.
sounds
Thanks,
good.
Elizabeth.
I'm so glad to be back.
Here, here.
Me too. So good to see y'all.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.